time. Huge basket for Draymond Green.
Warriors Radio Network, thanks for that. Steph Curry, by the way, 38 points, 11 boards, and 8 assists. Check this out. If the Warriors win their next 4 games on Christmas Day, it's a rematch of the finals with the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers beat the Magic on Friday, 111-76, and it was the Pacers outpacing the Heat 96-83 for just their 13th win on the season. I'll throw in a couple more. Raptors did their best over Milwaukee, 90-83. And it was the Hornets who smashed the Grizzlies for their 14th, 123-99. Let's jump to baseball. Oh, there was some big news in the baseball world. I'm going to start backwards with Phoenix. Zach Greinke was going to agree to a deal apparently with the Dodgers. Instead, he liked what Arizona had to say. Here's Greinke.
A lot of teams were a possibility, but then at one point we're just talking to 2 teams, so when only 2 teams are talking to you, you don't really think about other things. But, I mean, as soon as Casey told me that the Diamondbacks called, it got me excited. Just went from there. I mean, it happened pretty fast.
Yeah, Greinke gets those 6 years. That's what mattered. Jason Hayward, 8 years, $184 million from the Cubs. Kate Delaney, NBC Sports Radio.
This is KCAA.
If you're like me, you like to go to garage sales to search out all the bargains. You might even love to hold garage sales to sell all the stuff you and the family doesn't need anymore. But the big drag is you just don't like the back and forth until you finally give up and sell that old lamp, which used to be your grandmother's, for way less than it was worth. Well, now those days are gone, especially those Saturdays. Let me introduce you to BuySellMakeOffer.com, the new and revolutionary way to buy and sell online by using video and Skype to sell your antiques and more. You'll be able to experience a virtual garage sale from the comfort of your couch. Go right now to BuySellMakeOffer.com and type in your email address so we can make sure you're on board when we launch January 15th. BuySellMakeOffer.com is going to make history, and we want you to be a part of it. That's BuySellMakeOffer.com. Join us.
As the owner of my business, I wear a lot of hats. I'm accounting, sales, and so much more. But I don't know marketing.
Let Dex Media be your marketing department. Our team can create a digital plan for you with everything from search to social. Contact Dex Media, that's DEX Media, to get found, get chosen, and get talked about.
Whoa, that's a job for cleanup, which would be me.
Call 844-230-3436 or visit dexmedia.com today.
Hey, Di, do you know that many people have no idea that the Carousel Mall is actually open?
What? Do you tell them that that's where KCAA is located?
Of course, but there's more than just KCAA here.
Oh, I know. It's a totally great place for a girls' outing. Here at the Carousel Mall, there's Mega Beauty Supply.
And it's huge.
Yeah, the biggest beauty supply store I've ever seen. And they have wigs and extensions.
Then there's Backstreet Beauty Salon and Daniel's Jewelers, a store, by the way, for girls and guys.
Yes, and Nail Fashions, where they do waxing and eyelash extensions. There's Lisa's Threading. You know, Mark, eyebrow threading is a big thing nowadays.
I do know about Mr. Yu's.
Yes, when you're ready for lunch, it's Mr. Yu's Chinese restaurant.
Best of all, Mr. Yu's is right next to KCAA.
Yes, all this located in the Carousel Mall, right off the 215, the 2nd and 3rd Street exit.
Come visit the Carousel Mall. We're open.
For more info, go to kcaaradio.com.
KCAA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM are pleased to announce the brand new edition of The Stephanie Miller Show. Right here weekdays, Monday through Friday at 4 p.m.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's The Stephanie Miller Show.
Join Stephanie every weekday for her fun humor and snappy wit. The perfect antidote to cantankerous, grumpy old conservatives. Stephanie Miller makes weekdays fun at 4 p.m. right here on KCAA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM.
For more local radio every day, tune into KCAA Loma Linda.
Welcome to I'm Mad as Hell with Lloyd Brock and Greg Simpson. Now, if you want to share your anger, this is the station, KCAA, every Saturday at 12 noon. If you're mad as hell at the government, politicians, IRS, your bank, a car dealer, or the court system, let us know. You may want to be one of our in-studio guests, or just call in and vent that anger. 1-888-909-1050 or 909-888-5222 locally. We may not be able to resolve your individual problems, but we will give you a forum to share your anger with our listeners. Now, join us at KCAA 1050 AM and at kcaaradio.com or check us out at Ustream. Now, here's Lloyd and Greg.
I'm not going to take it anymore. And bah humbug.
What are you mad about?
You just read the newspapers.
Yeah?
Listen to the
That's
news.
standard. Read the newspapers, listen
That's
to the
right.
news.
Oh, today.
Walk down the street.
Well, this was on Glenn Beck's show, his radio program, and I thought, I'm mad as hell about this because he said, lamenting the president's recent focus on climate change at the COP21 summit in Paris, Glenn Beck addressed Obama on his radio program in the wake of Wednesday's deadly massacre here in San Bernardino.
Okay.
And he said, Mr. President, I say this with as much respect as you deserve, Beck began. To hell with global warming. That's what he said.
Well,
what the hell is wrong with you, he asked. If you actually believe that global warming is the biggest problem we face, with terror all over the world and $18 trillion debt, 9 of which is yours, no real allies left that trust us, riots in our streets, riots on our university campuses, race relations worse than I've ever seen since 1960s.
Oh, my goodness.
And a distrust of our fellow Americans unlike anything I've ever seen. You, sir, are either delusional or you're the dumbest SOB on the planet. And ditto for Jerry Brown, because he was
there
saying
too,
the very same thing, that global warming is our biggest problem.
Global warming is our whole problem.
Yeah. And I think you're oblivious to what the facts are and the problems that we're having. And as I say, every day in the news, we're talking about the
terrorism and the people being killed and injured and just all over the world.
Radical Muslims.
Yeah, radical Muslims. That's the problem. We get into
a
deal where we call them all, and they're not all.
What are you mad as hell about?
I'm mad as hell. A similar story, but this is more direct, and it's more directed at our problem as opposed to sidelines like global warming.
Well, that
isn't our problem. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The problem is we have a group of people that want to kill us.
You got an email from somebody.
Yeah, I got an email from Dr. Dennis Goldberg, who is a well-known doctor and a friend of yours, and he writes some good stuff. And he puts out, by the numbers, the Clarion Project's new film, The Untold Story of Muslims. And I watched it. And
I saw that
brilliant.
too.
It's brilliant. Anyway, he said, this is a very disturbing video, but I believe it is necessary for all people around the world to view, digest, and to understand the efforts of the Islamists to ultimately rule you, me and all free people on planet Earth. Take the time to view this and understand what the real danger to the free world is really about. Scary stuff, but you must understand the enemy in order to deal with them. Not a pleasant thing, but it is very important for the entire population to know the evil in this world. And it is not anti-religion, but it's anti-terrorism. That's what people got to understand. This isn't about religion. This is about terrorism, people coming into your home, if they will, and killing you.
Yeah.
And by the...
And that's a Muslim woman who's the moderator of that whole thing, so she's lived it.
Yeah, she's lived it.
So
she's dressed the garb, she speaks the speak, and she knows the story of the radical Muslim as opposed to the regular
and she talks about
peaceful people
all over the world.
That's right.
And the percentages that still believe in jihad things like that, and it's just amazing.
And she puts the numbers out there. That's why I left that out. She does the numbers. She gives you the details and the numbers, so you'll know.
That's right.
And it's scary.
And in the news today, also, in the L.A. Times, they had a story about this. This is, let's see, by James Quilley, and it's talking about the fire that was set. They set a mosque on fire in Coachella, right, in Riverside County.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
And that's definitely arson. And here they're targeting, and it's not the first time they've done it, but what they've done is they're targeting people all. You can't paint all Muslims the same color.
That's right.
You know, basically, I've got some good Muslim friends that are Christians, you know, and they hate this radical Islam as much as I do. And
Sure,
the rest of the people,
I've got Muslim friends that aren't Christian, but they do the same. They hate this radical deal. They want to live here in the United States and enjoy our way of life and become Americans.
Well, there was an article too about how many, and I think the project was, and I've got to find the report on that 80% of all mosques in the United States preach jihad. Now that's
pretty scary.
That is. It came from the Center for Security Policy, and Jim Hansen is executive vice president. That's what he said, and they know this because they have information, confidential informants that have already talked about this, and they're preaching incitement. Now, there has been a problem in the past that, you know, you can't talk about anything like that. But as far as religion is concerned, if you incite somebody to overthrow the government or something within a religion.
Did you bring that information? You have some information that's a clear violation of the law.
Well, it is, yeah. There was, it said Obama forgot about this law.
Yeah.
Islam by law is prohibited from U.S. immigration. The Immigration and Naturalization Act passed in June 27, 1952, revised the laws relating to immigration, naturalization, and nationality for the United States.
Uh-huh.
Now, that act, which became Public Law 414, established both the law and the intent of Congress regarding immigration of aliens to the U.S. and remains in effect today.
Yeah.
Among the many issues it covers, one in particular found in Chapter 2, Section 212, is the prohibition of entry to the U.S. if the alien belongs to an organization seeking to overthrow the government of the United States by force, violence, or other unconstitutional means. This, by its very definition, rules out Islamic immigration to the United States.
Absolutely.
This being ignored by Obama.
Yeah.
And Islamic immigration to the U.S. would be prohibited under the law because the Quran, Sharia law, all require complete submission to Islam, which is anti-ethical to the U.S. government, the Constitution, and to the Republic.
Sure.
All Muslims who attest to the Quran in their life-guiding principles subscribe to submission to Islam and its form of government. But also, we have to realize that in our own Bible, the radical Christians, if we believed in everything that was in the Bible, and a lot of them it's not enforced, like if a man lies with another man, he should be stoned.
Sure,
there's several.
There's good rules in the Bible that aren't enforced, and a lot of people use grace as a way to scrape it under the rug.
That's true, but
God's laws are all good.
Yeah. So we've got, we have somebody calling in, right? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes.
Who's this? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, is this Dan?
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Dan. This is Dan Romay.
Hi, Dan. I met you at your premiere of the
documentary,
and we had a long conversation. I had one with you, and my wife spoke with your wife, Ruth, and had a service dog, and Ruth loved the dog.
Yeah, and we're welcome you to Mad as Hell, and you. If I'm going to tell our audience, Dan Romay is 90 years old, and he survived the Holocaust, and he's from Poland. He's not Jewish. He's a Polish citizen. And he immigrated to the United States many years ago and was in the British Army, but he spent 4 years into German concentration camps. He was arrested when he was 15 years old and thrown into Auschwitz. But Dan, you know a lot about history in Poland, and I wanted to have you explain what happened in way back when the Muslims invaded Poland. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. What would you like to know?
Well, what happened in 1100s?
Well, the Tatars invaded. The Tatars were the nomadic tribes from outer Mongolia. And they kept moving west and west and west until they passed the Ural Mountains, which divide Europe from Asia, and then keep on going west until they came to Poland.
What did they want to do in Poland?
Well, they just, they were conquering people.
Yeah.
They just kept fight. They were Muslims, and they kept fighting the infidel and whatever.
And they were pretty vicious, weren't they?
Yeah.
Did they torture people? Or did they come in and just torture these people? The Polish people?
They cut everybody's throat that they could find.
Oh my goodness!
So it was in those days that was women and children hide in the forest, right?
Yeah.
That was the only escape.
You told me a story about pregnant women. What did they do there?
If they found a pregnant woman, they would open up her belly and see if it was a boy or a girl. If it was, then they were making bets whether it's a boy or a girl.
Oh, they would bet on it in the first place, huh?
Yeah, before opening up.
Oh, how
and
vicious.
They were, of course, kill them.
Yeah, I think I read about
a way of entertainment,
Oh, geez. But the Polish people defeated them, right?
Yes, they went as far as Upper Silesia, and there was a town called Legnica, and there was a battle before the Poles and the Tatars there, and the Poles had about 5,000 knights there gathered. And the Tatars were about 100,000 warriors.
Wow.
Yeah. However, they, for the first time in their journey west, they have came across knights, Western style knights in armor. Even the horses were armor, and of course, the knights had the long two-handed swords, which were much longer than what they had. They had only those short, curved Saracen types.
Oh, yeah. I've seen those.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that was during the battle. Hello?
Yes.
Hello, we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah. During the battle, they captured the Polish prince that commanded the Polish army and cut his head off.
Oh, boy.
And stuffed it with powder.
Gunpowder.
Now, bear in mind that powder was not known in Europe at that time. That was way before Marco Polo, and who brought the powder to Europe from China. And they just nobody knew that there was such a thing as powder. Well, they stuffed the head with powder and put it on a wagon that was captured and put the horses towards the Polish lines. And as the horses were galloping, the head exploded.
Oh my
with
God!
a great boom, and that scared everybody. And they just never seen anything like it before. And they thought they were against the devil here, because only the devil could do such a thing.
Uh-huh.
So they ran. So basically, the victory was for the Tatars. However, they lost so many people killed over there that they have decided to withdraw back to Crimea, the peninsula of Crimea, now in Russia. That was their seat, to gather reinforcement. And they did just that. So they withdrew, and next year they came back again. But by that time, the Poles got their wits back, and met them again in force and beat them off again. And that went for 300 years.
Wow.
Every year.
Every year, huh?
Yeah. First, the Turks were, the Tatars were taken over by the Turks later on. Yeah. And the Turks were coming there too. And that was an enormous force. But they just couldn't beat the Poles.
No,
the Poles stood there and fought and fought and fought and wouldn't let them in.
Yeah.
Did that? What happened in 1600s?
That was the Turks finally gave up on Poland.
Okay.
They just couldn't make a footprint over there. So they went south of the Carpathian Mountains through Hungary over there and invaded Austria and Vienna. Vienna was besieged for 6 months. They're surrounded by them, and nobody would help them except the Polish king John III. And when they asked, the Austrians asked for help, they mobilized and marched on, the Poles marched on Vienna to bring the help. When he was about 1 day march from Vienna, he left all of his artillery and supply wagons and everything. It was drawn by horses very slowly behind, and just took 40,000 mounted knights. And at the fast trot, they went towards Vienna. They arrived on the Kallenberg, which overlooks the Vienna, about in the early afternoon, about 2 o'clock, I think. And the battle began. When the Turks saw him, on the white horse over there, they immediately formed squares. In those days, people fought in squares. With the first row was the shields with those long picks there, and behind them were the long bowmen. Well, anyway, the Poles attacked and split the squares into halves and opened them up, and with that, the light cavalry went there for the kill.
So they were on horses. The Polish soldiers
were
on horses, and they
they galloped down from the mountain, and just with a force, they had all armed. Even the horses were armed.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
The arrows just was bouncing off. At any rate, they split the
squares,
squares, and then they killed them off over there. The battle lasted about 2.5 hours and was over.
And that was the end of them, right?
Yeah, that was the end of them, huh?
Yeah, the Turks were beaten, and in the Grand Vizier, his name was Kara Mustafa, barely escaped with a handful of bodyguards there.
Oh boy.
And he left everything. He left his the harem of 200 wives there, and all of his gold and silver, just left, and just run.
Run for the hills, huh?
So he left his wives and very precious cargo.
200 wives, yes. And in those days, in the Muslim world, that was a prestige. The more wives you had, the more prestige you had.
Oh, yeah. So they, but you, that was the last time that they invaded Poland, right?
Yeah. Well, that was in Austria.
That was enough.
Well,
yeah.
That was the last time they invaded Europe.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Well, yeah, they've tried many times.
The Grand Vizier, whose name was Kara Mustafa, was later beheaded by the Sultan because she lost the battle there for Vienna. That
so
was it.
Took care of him anyway.
Yeah, that was the last attempt of conquering Europe.
Oh boy!
Okay.
No, I had a question for you though that had that wasn't related to that battle, and after your imprisonment as a political prisoner at the age of 15 into Auschwitz and all these other prisons, because you went to 3 other prisons too. Before you escaped, did you harbor any hatred towards the Germans?
No, in fact, I escaped with a German friend.
Yeah.
Whose sister, he said his sister was going to hide us to the end of the war.
Yeah.
Now, how could I hate the Germans? The Germans were actually at that time divided. There were the Nazis, that everybody hated. In fact, many Germans didn't even call Hitler by Führer or his name or whatever. He just called him by that man.
That man, huh?
Yeah. A lot of Germans hated Hitler.
Oh, yeah.
And he was one of them. He was 12 years in concentration camp for writing one article when Hitler ran for power, ridiculing him.
But you can see how
12 years.
Yeah. How the German people were actually sort of hypnotized into believing that the Jews were responsible for everything that happened in Germany. And here again, you can see that how these Muslims today can be brainwashed into believing that we're the infidels.
The bad guy, the
totally
devil, whatever they
them.
call it.
Of course. Yes, they believe the Nazis. That's what the Nazis believe.
Yeah, that's true.
That they are it, and everybody is not it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever deal with the Muslims in the concentration camps, or were they not an entity or a problem?
No, I don't know of any Muslim concentration camp. No, they were not, because they were. Turkey in World War I was allied with Germany. Okay. So they, in fact, the Nazis had there was a brigade or division of Muslims there.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
So they were not prosecuted.
They weren't prosecuted, I got it.
But in one camp, in Neuengamme, just by Hamburg, the majority of prisoners in that camp were Germans.
I'll be darned.
Yeah. Everybody thinks there was not a single Jew in the camp.
Oh,
they were all Germans, Poles, Czechs, French, whatever, but no Jews. The Germans were mostly what they call their Bibelforscher, which is the Jehovah's Witnesses in this country.
Oh, yeah.
They refused to bear arms, for Hitler, so they come up.
Yeah.
They perished.
A lot of them did, yeah.
All of them, because those that were in the Neuengamme, they all perished. Because when they were evacuating the camp, I wasn't there at that time, they loaded them on barges in Lübeck and were towing them somewhere, God knows where. And a couple of British planes found them in the sea and rocketed them and strived them and sank the barges.
Oh,
so
yeah.
all prisoners went down there.
Oh. Yeah, we got We got to take a break. Can you stay on the line for a little bit?
Okay.
And as I say, I've got this is I'm Mad as Hell show. The station is KCAA, 1050 AM, and now 106.5 FM. So stay tuned, and we'll coming back with Dan Romay.
Okay.
We'll be back in a minute.
You're listening to KCAA Loma Linda at 106.5 FM, K293CF Moreno Valley.
Do you like craft beer from microbreweries? Well, I'd like to tell you about Oak Hills Brewing Company in Hesperia. All of their beers are brewed on site from the very best ingredients. Yummy, yummy. Typically, they have between 12 to 14 beers on tap at any given time. And backed by popular demand, Mango Orange Wheat Beer. A delightfully flavored beer with orange and mango juice. It's a little light citrusy beer with a tropical twist. You can also check into some heavier beers, Grapefruit IPA and the Belgium Triple Redemption. You can also bring the kids. Oak Hills Brewing Company offers 3 crafted sodas, yummy root beer, zesty ginger ale, and cream soda. The kids will love them. You can also visit the tasting room and take the behind-the-scenes brewery tour. Oak Hills Brewing Company in Hesperia. They're open 3 days a week, Thursday from 3 to 9, and Friday and Saturday from 1 till 10. Go up right after you hear the show. For more information, go to their website. It's oakhillsbrewingco.com. oakhillsbrewingco.com. You'll find a map with directions and a list of all their beers. To find the best craft beer in Southern California, just remember Oak Hills Brewing Company in Hesperia. Take the 15 up to the 395, pass 2 signals, and turn right on Poplar. Oak Hills Brewing Company, Hesperia.
Once again, here's Lloyd and Greg.
Oh, yeah, we're back, and we're talking to Dan Romay. Are you still there, Dan?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. After 90 years old, and all those 90 years, you've seen a lot of, more than most people, I guarantee you. What do you think about this terrorist movement right now, as far as the threat to the United States?
Well, I'm not sure if I should say this, but I don't want to offend anybody. But in Europe, we have this saying, that you can spit into American's face, and he will say, well, it must be raining because I'm getting all wet. I think this is what is happening right now. They're spitting in our face, and we don't even know it.
Well, that's a good analogy, man.
Yeah, I think
that's
so.
That's really
it's
fair
true.
for them.
And after I just, I was talking about Obama and his global warming, thinks number one threat to the United States is global warming, not this. And I think that's ridiculous. Yeah. But and you came here from England, right? You immigrated from England because you couldn't go back to Poland.
I can't. We were deprived of citizenship by then the communist Poles.
Yeah.
What was left of us, yeah.
And you took the oath of allegiance too.
Yeah, I had to come to this country on a stateless passport because I was not a citizen of any country.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Officially.
That's right.
How'd they bring you in? What do? They issue some type of temporary papers, or how do they document you, Dan?
Well, what was left of us, we were invited to all our former comrades in arms. The government of the United States invited us, the Canadians invited us, Australians invited us, New Zealanders, South Africans, what have you. All of our that we were, all of the Western allies, because we were without the country.
Well, that was good, and I mean, you were treated well that way.
Yeah,
you just and you were a photographer for many years. I know you were in the photography business there in Upland. You had Baby Beautiful. photography studio, and you retired a few years back, but you did a lot of that, and I've seen some of your work, and it's really great. But we really appreciate you coming on the program and sharing with us. And as I say, we'll anxious to see your new documentary, which is being re-edited, and I'm going to try to get that finished.
You haven't quite finished it yet, huh?
Yeah, but we'll do that. And
anyway, it's worth watching. Everybody, listen close, because it's a very, very well spoken and very well told by this man here.
Yeah, and you tell people a lot of things that weren't in the history books, and I think that's important. So
very important.
There's Dan Romay is a little bit of our history right here.
Right here.
Yeah, and thanks for going on the program. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Hope to see you one day soon.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, that's truly a great
truly
gentleman.
A treasure here,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And he's amazing that he's lasted, after all those years of being fed bread and water
yeah,
and little
the garbage
soup
he was fed.
And tortured and still surviving.
And escaping, escaping.
And he was shot.
And he was shot. And the whole
still
bunch
managed
of stuff.
to make it to France. And then he joined the British Army Polish division, went back into Germany and routed out the Germans that were left in those little towns.
Yeah, he got quite a story. I mean, and the documentary's outstanding.
Well, we call it the Mad Pole, but
the Mad Pole,
he didn't appreciate that in the beginning because he said, "I'm not mad, I'm not crazy." And I said, "Well, look, when you went to England, one of his jobs was cleaning up the Parliament building.
Sure.
And after the bombing, it was dusty, and one of his jobs was cleaning out Winston Churchill's office. And he said he developed a liking to his soda water.
Yeah.
And he said he drank most of it, and he came in one day and he said, "Who's been drinking my soda water?" I said, "I did, sir." And he said, "You're a mad Pole. Go to America," with all the rest of it. But so I said, "That's an honor." I said, "No.
Sure.
How many people have even met
a mad
Winston
Pole?
Churchill? Yeah.
Or met Churchill. Yeah, you got it.
But as I say, this is a different type of documentary because it's, as I say, he's Polish. He's not Jewish, and he was actually raised Polish Catholic. So that was entirely different because most of the ones you see are Jewish. So I thought that it would be a good way to bring it out.
Sure,
and tell his story, and we do have it, but we're re-editing the film.
Yeah, he said some people thought it was too strong. The dead bodies and stuff were too strong. And
well, that's what it was all about, though.
I know that's what I can't understand why.
But this is actually his story, and I want to get as much as I possibly can because he lived it.
He lived it, right?
Yeah.
But that analogy, spitting in the wind, and it comes back, and we call it rain.
Yeah.
That's what's happening today. I mean, you couldn't analyze it any better.
That's true.
I mean.
But I had, we were talking about vetting all the new refugees from Syria and the Middle East and how we can properly do that. And it's very difficult.
Yeah, it is. There's no easy way to do it.
This morning I talked to a friend of mine who was he worked for the FBI, and he was their foremost polygraph expert, and he's retired now, has a business in Beverly Hills, and I asked him about polygraph or the lie detector test would be effective in screening out these applicants, and he said absolutely. And he said it would help if they spoke English, but he said, or understood it. And he said, we could actually do that. And he said, now, and I didn't know this, but he said, now a polygraph is admissible in federal courts.
Oh, boy. When did that happen?
Just recently.
Yeah, it has to be recent, yes.
Yeah. So now that's admissible. And he said, it's not just any polygraph operator. He said, we go to school for this for a long time.
Sure.
And actually they become profilers, and they look at the behavior of the individual too.
Yeah.
So it's not just hooking somebody up to the machine and asking them questions.
Right.
You got to see how they answer those questions. And he said the best polygraph experts today went through this FBI school.
Okay.
And they're training.
And they're trained from FBI.
Yeah,
Okay.
and he says a lot of results that are bogus, bad results, come from bad polygraph operators.
I got it. I hear you.
That weren't trained properly to ask the right questions and things like that.
Did you ask him whether Syrian people, the people from this area, would be better able to detect the abnormal behavior, or no?
If they knew the language of the people they're polygraphing, it would help.
Uh-huh.
But he says it takes a long time to train somebody
In
to
that.
do it properly.
Okay.
He said you just can't say, hey, 2 weeks from now or 90 days, you're going to be an expert on this whole thing. It takes longer than that and some experience. So it would take time to train them.
But maybe with a good interpreter, I don't know. Would that help a polygrapher at all? Or is it? I don't think so.
Maybe. And I asked him how long it would take. And he said most of my polygraph exams take at least 2 hours.
Uh-huh. That's a long
But he said
time.
we can do it he said the shortest one would be about 90 minutes.
Uh-huh.
So if you've got 10,000 people that you got a polygraph,
And 90
it's going to
minutes.
take
It takes
a long time unless you've
costs
got
a lot of money.
unless you've got quite a few experts
Doing
to
it,
do
yeah.
this, and the
Sure.
government does have them.
Sure they
that they're
do.
using on other deals. But Jack said he would, after the first of the year, he'd be glad to come on the program and discuss this and answer questions.
Good. That'd be a great.
Very, very informative gentleman. And as I say, Dr.
He does that. He does shows and stuff too.
Dr. Phil uses him all the time.
Dr. Phil uses him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And but at any rate, I've known him for years, and he's one of the best.
Yeah.
And he's not only using, as I say, the results from the polygraph are important, but so are the body
language. Yeah, sure.
and how to get them to respond.
Uh-huh.
It's very important because I've seen some that weren't that good, and
Have
they'd
you?
ask the wrong questions and say, "Oh, I passed that," and there's very few that could ever deceive him.
Yeah. Well, that
shows
how good he is.
Yeah.
He must be really.
If you have any questions concerning anything that we've discussed so far, please feel free to call us. The local number, 1-909-888-5222.
Or long distance, you can reach us at 1-888-909-1050.
And what else are we going to talk about?
Well, you got plenty to be mad about. Let's get mad here about something else.
Well, here's, basically they staged this
Mass
deal.
killing?
Well, they staged it in Texas, the University of Texas, to protest gun-free zones. And here again, that is a big problem, especially if you put it on the outside of the building or in there. This is a gun-free zone.
Right.
That tells you, hey, if I've got a gun, I can go in there and kill people.
Right. As an aside on that, on this advertising, what people look at, we used to drive a church van. We used to travel and do a show in a church van, and we had advertising on the church van. And one time we broke down, and some thugs were going to come and rob us. And we were just lucky that we had a divine intervention, really, because I have a patrolman come up behind us and walked up right on the start of a robbery, I'm sure. And it was probably introduced by the advertising on the van, thinking we'd collected money or whatever.
All schools are gun-free zones.
Yeah, right.
Too, but recently Jerry Falwell came out, I guess it was last week, and said that he wanted all of his students at Jerry Falwell University to be armed.
Well?
To be armed and to be ready if anybody comes on campus, shoot them.
There you go.
Defend yourself.
Is that safety or what?
Well, this is...
today's world?
For Jerry Falwell, he's quite liberal.
Sure, he's very liberal.
And that would be against Obama's policy for sure.
Or
but
anybody...
he came out and said, you got to do this.
Well, You know, we got our freedom using guns. We didn't use knives and forks and stuff like that. We used guns.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's why our founding fathers give us the Second Amendment and said we have to stay armed.
We've got to go to a break.
Okay.
You're listening to I'm Mad as Hell on KCAA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Is it that time? Your car needs a smog check? Well, check out Quick Smog Check in Montclair. They guarantee your vehicle will pass, or you pay not a thing. That's right. If it doesn't pass the test, what the heck, you don't have to pay. So what's the reason why you're not calling them? The number 909-626-5436. You can also drive right down there now. 5438 Holt Boulevard in Montclair. They're open 9 to 5, 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. Do it now. No wait smog checks at Quick Smog Check in Montclair. 909-626-5436.
Thanks for waiting. Lloyd and Greg are back.
Yes, we are.
We're here.
And I was looking through all this whole, what I've got here. If I got a response from this gentleman, I sent him this called Operation Boot Out.
Okay.
And
Operation Boot Out, huh?
yeah. And he was talking about he was against. He said that's not going to work. Where you've got a screening of people.
Uh-huh.
And he said it can't work because I said I don't see the problem there because
I don't see any problem.
If you incite people to violence, you should be able to stop them from doing it.
And you should be able to spot them when they come by because they're not going to be less aggressive. They're going to probably be more aggressive.
We had. I've got to have a show on relationships.
Yep, that's for sure.
I need somebody to come on here who's who would discuss this, maybe marriage and family counselor or something like that. Because I've got a friend who called me last night and says, "Hey, don't talk about all this stuff. That's that's why I don't watch the news. I don't watch the news. I don't read the newspapers because all this is bad news. We've got to talk about peace and love." Peace and love, and we got to get along and get. I said, "Hey,
we want to get along."
I'm all for peace and love.
Those folks over in San Bernardino were sure loving each other and getting along and peace, and then some idiots come in and shoot them.
Well,
I think they need to know about that.
2.5 miles from where we are right here.
Right here, yeah, 2.5 miles. And how far? 8 blocks from your home?
That's well, their house is about 8 blocks from my house in Redlands, but this is. He says, you got to talk about peace and love. Don't talk about violence and all this bad stuff. And I said, that's reality.
That's right. That's reality.
I said, take a bunch of roses, go to Syria, and give them to ISIS.
Give them out roses, yeah.
They'll hand you your head.
Yeah, and your head will
on the end of those roses.
They'll be handing your head and saying this and that.
I'm here for peace and love.
Well, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I am too.
I'm all for it.
Absolutely.
It's the best way.
The reality of...
But I'm going to protect my family from those that aren't, and
There are people out there that, like Dan Romay said in the 1100s, when that head blew up, they thought it was a devil.
They thought it was a devil. Well,
there are people out there that are devil incarnate.
Well,
I believe
I think they are. They're bad people. They want to do bad things to anybody, not even just good people. Other bad people.
But it's all good, and a lot of people are depressed.
Sure, that's a big problem right now. Depression, and they've given up. I think really.
And the fear factor plays on this whole thing.
Sure.
That's
what terrorism is, to play off of the fear. Blow one up and then make 10,000 people afraid. You don't have to go very far.
I don't know how to resolve that fear factor, but
I don't either.
You've got people, like I said last week, that their life has no meaning, and they figure they're going into, and they get very depressed.
Sure.
And religion is the answer. Good religion and sometimes bad religion.
But it is.
You know, but
it's
if they
based on
believe
some
in
higher power,
something, and
and
they keep, that gives them a reason to go on living.
Yeah, I think
until
so.
they die.
And then they have to
and
go
blow
and stand in the
themselves
real
up, maybe.
judgment. Yeah.
But it's not something that.
It's not tangible. You don't know. People don't just normally walk in and blow themselves up to kill other people.
No,
it's not a normal behavior.
But it's not all love and peace.
No, it's not. And they hate Israel. They hate the Jewish people in such a passion, and they've hated them all along the ages. That
you remember the flower children, don't you?
Yeah.
Today, somebody come up, peace and love, they'll slap you in the face.
Slap you in the face, yeah.
What are you talking about?
Then they'll sue you.
I hate you.
I hate you. Yeah. They got that comedian. He plays that up pretty well.
I kill you.
I kill you.
No, it's not a reality.
That's right.
It's something that we can hope for.
Sure.
But I've got so many people that have said, I don't watch the news.
Well,
and I don't read the newspapers. It's so much bad news.
Well, I don't think it's the bad news. It's not true news. It's slanted. It's twisted.
Well, not all of it.
Not all of it, exactly. But
this is reality.
But
here
getting to the real stuff, it's tough.
But I want to keep an open mind for all of that. And people just want to close it up and say, I'm going to live my little life here by myself and forget about that. Didn't work here in San Bernardino.
No, it sure
People
did.
tried.
They tried. And you do something for our kids and everybody. He plays Santa Claus, if people don't know that, and brings blessings to all these kids. He's not a hate monger or a mean person. He's probably one of the nicest people you want to meet. But he's going to protect his family, as I'm going to protect my family.
That's right.
And I know the truth. I know where our threat's coming from. It's not coming from 80 people that were having a Christmas party and enjoying themselves. They weren't the problem. The problem came from outside, and we knew what that problem was.
One of them was a homegrown terrorist.
Yes, exactly.
And that is one of the big problems.
That's one of the scariest problems, sure.
You cannot ignore that fact. And when you talk about global warming...
Yeah, global warming, that's our problem, right?
Jerry Brown, there was a whole article in today's paper about Jerry Brown attending the conference in Paris and said, it's our biggest problem. It's really going to affect us.
I had some of that global warming last night. My wife stole my blankets.
Yeah.
For me, it was global warming or global freezing.
Well, it could be a problem down the line, but I don't think it's number one.
No, it's not.
They did a survey recently, and they said the concern of people in the United States, number one, is safety.
Sure.
The second is the economy.
But when you're talking about safety, you got to be safe from something, right?
Yeah, and there's always, people are so amazed, the political analysts out there are so amazed that Trump is still 38%.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
The lead. And they said he says, don't bring any more Muslims, period, into the United States. Now, I think, as I say, you can't.
I think it's a drastic stand, but
Well, you can't wash all of them with the same paintbrush and say they're all bad.
That's what happens. Then you start profiling, instead of a Muslim, you profile a Hindu or somebody of that nature, of that color, Mexicans that might be...
there's Sikhs out there that are very peaceful. And
peaceful people,
they've been attacked.
Yeah, and they get attacked just because they're that color. They wear things in their head. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not fair. But as I say, that was this is the number one concern today, and Trump is leading the bandwagon. They say, this is impossible. How could that? Everybody said, oh, that's the end of him.
Sure.
And even the press secretary out there says,
this
is the end of him.
Right?
He's not even qualified to be president.
Yeah.
But, given the options, they say,
why he's an American. I think an American can be president. Other people can be president. American should be.
Well, you've got to address.
I'm not necessarily for Trump. I don't want to say anything there, but he's sure speaking the right lingo.
Well, he's stirred the pot.
Sure he has.
And where it's going to settle, I don't know. And, I saw a bumper sticker the other day that said, anybody but Hillary. They're...
Well, it's true. Well, not anybody. We got an anybody now. So I don't know.
Bernie Sanders, a socialist.
Okay, well, I guess you could go there.
But I'm not going to, it's just, it's ridiculous how things are working. And they say they're not following the rules. Because all intentionally said he stirred up the pot. Trump has stirred it up so much that they don't know. Nobody can predict what's going to happen next year.
Yeah, nobody can.
And, that's maybe a good thing because it shows dissatisfaction with the status quo.
Sure.
They don't like the economy. They don't like the fact that we're not safe.
Right, and the changes that were made aren't good changes that they thought were going to be made.
Well, and
it's not helpful changes.
And now some of the Democrats are coming out and say, "Oh yeah, we got to close the borders." Well, they're wide open now, and they've always been for a long, long time. And they said we got to close the borders.
Well,
that's
Trump
said, "That's what I said. I'm going to build a wall."
I'm going to build a wall. He's going to keep them out. Yeah.
So all of these things are coming into play, and after the first of the year, we're going to find out what happens in Iowa, and that'll be interesting.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting.
So far he's still number one.
Yeah.
Cruz was number 2, and I think Rubio was number 3.
Cruz was 2, and Rubio was 3. Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of they say we need a politician to be president. Well, that's not necessarily so.
Not necessarily so.
No.
That's right.
No, that. Obama wasn't much of a politician. He had a very short stance, as a senator. He wasn't there for very long, and he had the backing.
That's right. Had plenty of money. That's his big deal. He's a good fundraiser.
And his good friend,
Oprah,
the mayor of Chicago, is in trouble right now. So I don't know what's going to happen, but everybody thought that these were the answers. And it wasn't.
It wasn't, not at all.
And it isn't.
It hasn't been. 7 years hasn't been, It's been
but you can still, but there's still people out there that believe that what he's done is excellent.
Oh, yeah.
And that global warming is, show me global warming's a problem, that's going to be, defeat us before the terrorists.
Yeah.
How
can that be?
I don't know, unless
a sunspot or something could come and roast us real quick. God could do it, but that's the only one that I know of.
Don't bring it upon us.
Don't bring God up, all right? Well, sorry.
No. So next week, I'm not sure what's going to happen.
We're going to try to get a relationship thing going. Okay?
Yeah, we'll try to get somebody, and we'll talk about relationships and what makes them last and endure. And peace and love.
Peace and love, sure.
Sure.
But it doesn't have any place on the battlefield.
No.
It doesn't.
And, just before us, there was the good doctor talking about peace and love and all this.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I agree.
Yeah, it's staying agreeable things.
Nice feeling.
Yeah,
and then
feeling
you can
good, feeling nice.
Breathe deeply and relax. And
what did Dan say? It's like spitting in the wind and calling it rain.
That's what he said.
That's exactly what he said.
I'm going to breathe deeply and hang on to my gun.
Yeah, there you go.
So
that's
safe,
how it is.
And I'll keep the peace.
And you'll keep the peace, that's right.
I will.
And there are some beautiful people out there, by the way. There's people out there. You just got to search a little bit.
Until next week.
Okay, until next week.
This is Lloyd.
This is Greg.
And we'll see you then.
See you then.
They say freak when you're singled out.
This is 1050 AM KCAA Loma Linda and 106.5 FM Yucaipa.
Your NBC Sports Radio update starts now.
It comes down to 3 for the Heisman Hardware, New York. Kate Delaney, NBC Sports Radio. Yeah, Christian McCaffrey, the stud from Stanford, he's one of the 3. He talked about what an honor it was to be considered.
Been a dream, and to be put in that conversation is, like I said before, extremely humbling, and couldn't ask for better teammates.